Oishudalad. So the Rebbe is going to continue to explain now the advantage of the struggle that when you overcome, specifically iskafia, when you have to battle with the Yetzer Hara and you have to overcome the challenges, that brings a greater level of hamshocha. As the Rebbe will explain that in Helem, there's two levels. It brings down the higher level of Helem when you bring the oil through iskafyu sitra achra istalik ikore de kutshe berichu. You bring down a higher madrega. You dalit. Let's look inside. Obiur ha'ilu hamshocha. To explain the advantage, the greatness of this hamshocha, which we call the bizbuz ha'itzres, the fact, the splurging of the treasures. The splurging of the treasures comes through the avoida of nitzochin yigia, through iskafia, to explain this advantage, what hamshocha we're talking about, shal yidei ha'avoida di iskafia dafke, that is through the avoida of subduing, to understand it beprotis yoser, more details, before he bring down in general that the bizbus ha'eitzres comes through nitzochin, through iskafia. And now he wants to explain this more detailed. Yuvon alpi masha kosuf admur morashab nishmos Eden will understand it based on what the Rebbe Nishmos Eden writes. Bebiur hamaimer, when he explains the saying of the Zohar, kad iskafio sitra achro istalik yikore de kutshebricha bekulo omen. That when you subdue the sitra achra, when you push down the other side, then the glory of Hashem, a light, removable light, a stalik, comes down in all the worlds. He explains what is this istalik yikora, the yikor, the precious of a light which is histalic. So he says like this. In that Maimer explains the hatam al zeh, the reason for this, shal yidei is kafya sitra achra, that through subduing the other side, nimshach oir naila kozesh nikra b'shem histalic, that you draw down such a high light, which we refer to it a removed light. There is a light which comes down b'pnimius, that's light, an inner light. A removed light means a light which is above, that it's a light which comes in a way vistalik. And the reason is lihi yoisei oir makif, since that light that comes down the oil is a surrounding light, which means Shem is sulak mibchinas apnimius. That's why it's called an istalic light. It is removed from the premise. So what's the reason that dafke through iskafia we get that higher light? Uki yisrein ha'oid hu min ha'chishach dafke. Because the advantage of oil is when it comes dafke from darkness. Shal yidei birur ha'choshech nimshach toisves oir. That when you sort out the darkness, in other words, when you push away and you overcome choshech, then nimshach toisves oir, then it extends additional light, shalamaylo me'oir shenimshach, which is higher than the light which comes down, which is drawn down, b'soid shoresh, in the secret of a root. In other words, when we bring down in a way of a root, over there, it's nimdat shenimdat v'niktzav liferach oilumes. Over there, as if you take it as from the root of that you are doing not an istalkus oir, then it's measured and it's set up relative to the worlds. It's a limited oir. Here you're getting a histalkus oir, you're getting a higher oir. Why? Because you subdued the Yitzhahar, it was his kafir. And he explains over there in that Maimer of the Rebbe Rashab, the Zeu Hatam, this is the reason, Al Zeh Ha'odom Mekabel Chayes Meha Macholim Dedemem Tzemei Chay. This is the reason why the person receives energy from the foods of Demem Tzemei Chay. Demem Tzemei and Chay, the inanimate, growing, and living matters of the world, have a higher source and they have a makif light. Why does the person get that makif light? It's dafke because it's iskafia. When a person impacts himself, not to be drawn into the physical pleasures of the food, but rather his intent when he eats the food is for the sake of the heavens, for sake of Hashem. That with the power of the food that he eats, he should learn. And daven, he eats the food so that he can eat, so he can learn, and that he can daven. So, and the Rebbe adds now, explains specifically the lotion that the Rebbe Rashab used, that the food will help him learn, and the food will help him daven. שבכדי שיפעל בעצמי שכוונוסי בהאכילה תהיה, ואמס לשם שמיים. Somebody knocking over there? תהיה באמס לשם שמיים, שבכויח האכילה, שכוונוסי בהאכילה תהיה באמס לשם שמיים. That when he eats, it should be truthful לשם שמיים. So why does the Rebbe say in the Maimer that the food will help him learn? And also daven. Why daven also? So in order that the eating should be the Shem Shamayim, it's not enough to just daven. So first you need to have the service of davening, because technically the davening comes before the eating. So the normal order would be to daven, to eat, and then to learn. But here he says that with the power of the food, he's going to learn and also daven. So the Rebbe explains over here that in order for the food to help him learn, that it should be the Shem Shamayim, you need to first the tefillah. First, you need to daven. The avodah of davening be in such a way you have to daven. So also that the animal soul, if you don't daven first, then you can't really eat l'shem shamayim, because it's not going to come down fully to the nefesh habahamis. You got to daven to give the Shem Shemayim to the nefesh habahamis as well. Should be bernus kazushim ben gam nefesh habahamis gam nefesh habahamis tovin v'tasik shetzorich lirtzes belakus v'lei b'chum l'Yisraelim. So that also that the animal soul should understand and grasp that you need to want godliness and not the materialism of the world. So in order for that Shem Shomayim to be fully, you need to daven. So the daven explains it to the animal soul, and that godliness is important, not materialism. And then later on, he can go again, and that food that he's going to eat is going to be truly l'shem shamayim, and he is going to therefore elevate it. Shal yidei zeh. So through this, mevarer es hamaychel, he sorts out the food. Shemafrid mimenu es hora. The fact through this that it's kavona in eating is l'shem shamayim, he sorts out the food. Shemafrid mimenu es hora, that he separates from the eating the negative, the ra, the umayla satoif, and he elevates the good. So when the person struggles to not want the gashmis and the taiva, but rather to want the godliness, he removes the ra from that food, and he elevates the good. So that's a struggle to get to that level. Through such a sorting out, which he has to go through the struggle to separate and not to follow the time and just to go do it l'shem shamayim nimshach lo'tois v'soir b'chinas hamakif. Then he gets the extra light, the level of makif. And this is the meaning of kad iskafia sitra achra istaliki kora de kuchumrichu b'kulam. This means that when the other side is subdued, then the yikora, the preciousness of Hashem, the level of istalik, that level of makif, comes down, the in all worlds. You get the level of the yikora de kula, the level of makif. Kam shochas makif, while yidei bir racheshach dafke. Because how do we draw down the level of makif? It is dafke specifically through sorting out the cheshach. That's the iskafia. When we struggle and remove the darkness and we sort out from the darkness, then we bring down the level of makif. So makif, that's what it says. The Rebbe points out now that we say that you're sorting out the cheshach. We're not just saying you're fighting the cheshach. In the Maimer over there, sometimes it talks about iskafia, which leads to ishapcha. You subdue and then you turn around. Sometimes in the Maimer, the Rebbe brings down in the footnotes, it just talks about iskafia. So the Rebbe said, the moshul, he says, the mezeshim avayir shom, from the fact that over there in the Maimer by the Rebbe Rashab, he explains shepirush kad iskafia sitra achra hu birur hacheshach. It's sorting out. Sorting out means you're mavarer, that you're already mahapech. Just iskafia can mean you're battling the cheshach, but you haven't successfully sorted out. But the fact that he says birur hacheshach, and especially by giving the example from food in which you actually turn it around, especially from the example of sorting out the food by eating l'shem shemayim, shezeh bo la'achrei habirur denefesh habahamis l'idei vedas atfila, that comes after sorting out of the nefesh habahamis that through the davening of vedas atfila. So these idea, the example of sorting out nefesh habahamis, and we'll move on. Shegam b'maimer zeh, that also in our maimer, that when we talk about this kafi sitra achra, the Rebbe brings down this maimer is beiker li iskafia shenevel de ishapcha. It's a iskafia that leads to ishapcha, not just iskafia where you remain in the struggle, but it's a struggle. It's an iskafia that leads to ishapcha. That's why that's the birur hamaychel. That's already a ishapcha. The birur nefesh bahamis is ishapcha. So that's the idea of iskafia. But nevertheless, what does we say? We say that through iskafia, you get the level of makif. So the Rebbe continues to ask in the Maimer over there, the Rebbe Rashab, why do we need iskafia? Why do we need iskafia? Even normally, even without iskafia, we bring down Helam from makif, and explains that there's two madreges in makif. Mamshech b'Maimer. So it continues the Maimer, the tzorich lahavit. And we need to understand this. Harigam al yidei ha'avoida, the nefesh ha'lekis mitzad atzmo. Even just working with a godly soul without iskafia. Say, for example, b'avedus atfila, you're not avedus habirurim, that you're eating the maichel l'shem shemayim, but you're just davening. Bisboin in this belukus, when you reflect in godliness, binyonim, in matters she'enam shayochim lenefesh habahamis, in matters that are not connected to nefesh habahamis. Here we're talking your misboin and belukus, that the chumri is the materialism, the tainukim is not what you want the godliness. But if you just contemplating, reflecting on godliness with not a connection to the nefesh habahamis. And likewise, when you occupy yourself in Torah, nimshach toisves oir b'nefesh halikis, that adds additional light to the nefesh halikis. When we said that you add, even without the avodah of iskafia, you also get additional light to the nefesh halikis. The whole toisves oir. Anytime we talk about additional light, it comes from makif. Chol toisves oir comes from makif, especially ubefracha toisves oir shanimshach al yidei hatfila ve'esek hatoira, the additional light which comes through davening and the esek hatoira hu toisves shemeruba al haiker. It's an addition which is more than the main. So hu meira makif, that's from the makif. So if you will daven and you'll contemplate in matter that are not related to the body, and you're occupied in Torah, you're already getting on a makif. So what is the advantage that comes through sorting out the darkness, Davke? And so he says that the Rebbe is going to make a note now. Why does the Rebbe Rashab, when he asks, he says, even when you just daven an Esek HaTorah, why doesn't he be the example of mitzvahs? Because mitzvahs inevitably involve the body. He wants to say, an avodah, wants to give an example which just involves your nefesh alikis. So he gives davening as an example, a learning of Torah. But mitzvahs would not be such a good example because mitzvahs inevitably involve the body via shloimer. So Rebbe explains in the bracket now. The fact that he brings in the Maimer an example from davening, which is called avodah over there. The Esek HaTorah and occupation of Torah, but not Kima Mitzvahs Chasodim, which we Torah avodah and Gemilas Chasodim. It only brings Torah and avodah, only Tefillah and Esek HaTorah, and not mitzvahs. Ki ha-mitzvahs mikivon she'inyonim hu tzivuim la'adam, because what mitzvah is command to the person. And why does a person get mitzvah kavana b'hem? He bichdei litzaref es abriyos. And the intent with mitzvahs is to refine to the people. So the mitzvah inevitably has to do with the refinement with the body. It's a birur behechrich shabirur shanasa al yodam bahaguf b'nefesh habahamis ubegilu kitzah. So it's inevitable that the sorting out that comes through the mitzvahs in the body in nefesh habahamis is a little bit open because they are for the person. And that would be in all mitzvahs. Even if the way he does the mitzvah is just from the neshama, it's with the body, it comes out a little bit begila in the body. As opposed to when the person is just learning Torah. That's why the example, he doesn't bring mitzvahs, because mitzvahs are inevitably connected to the body. But learning Torah, Torah, a mitzvah is to the Adam, is letzar of somebody, but Torah is the word of Hashem, it's Hashem's wisdom. It descended below and it dressed up in the human intellect. That's why it's possible. It's possible that you don't feel that sorting out and that refinement, the zichuch of the physical brain, the mind, that comes to them. So, he wants to give a mashal for the Esek HaNeshama by itself. He gives a mashal of Torah. That's why in the occupation of Torah it's more possible to be from the neshama. So when he works in the neshama, he has the kasha, but it still brings down maki because every toisus is meruba mina iker. So you already have maki. So what's the advantage of kadiskafia that when you subdue the other side? Vazeh explains there the b'makiv yeshtei madregas. There's two levels of makiv. Ki yidu as it's known, and shebehelem. When we talk about behelem, which makiv b'chinas helem, when it surrounds, that's a level of helem. Yeshtei b'chinas. There's two levels in helem. There's helem sheyesh nei b'mitzias. There is a obscurity that exists, but it's obscure. That's like the fire within the coal. The fire is there, but it's hidden. That's a helem sheyeshne b'mitzias, because although it's hidden and it's covered within the coal, it's a entity. It's a fire there, so you can't see it. It's in the gachelas, but it's fire. That's why through water you will extinguish the fire which is in the coal. But then you have a helam sheina b'mitzias. You have an obscure which does not exist. It's a fire which is not even an entity. Like the fire which is in the flint stone. It will never extinguish. You can soak it in water. The stone, it doesn't extinguish. It's such a helem, it's not yet an entity of fire. The difference between these two levels, helem that is b'mitzias and not b'mitzias, it's also in the way they become revealed from their obscure state. The how do you bring out and reveal the fire from the coal? That's by blowing it with the bellows that you blow and you bring the fire. That's how you bring it out. Why? Because it's b'mitzias. It's easier to bring out that fire. But to bring out the fire from the flintstone, That's through banging it with force. This is the advantage in the makif that comes through birur hacheshech. Even though you bring makif, even when the neshama is avodah mitzad atzmo, and without being mevarer, but there's an advantage. The makif shenimshach al yidei ha'avodah, the nefesh alikis, the makif that comes through the avodah of the godly soul, not through birur hacheshech hu makif hashayich l'pnimi. That's a makif that has a connection to the pnimi. Ubechlolus, generally talking about its halem sheyeshne b'mitzias. It's an obscurity, but it's still in existence. So lochein hamshachosei v'his galusei hi alidei ha'avodah nefesh alikis mitzad atzmo. That's the way it extends and is revealed. Is the avodah nefesh alikis on its own can bring down that level of helem because it's a helem sheyeshne b'mitzias. There's no such an effort. That would be like bow blowing with the ballos. As opposed to the makif, which comes down through sorting out the darkness. That's a big effort. That's a makif that does not have a connection to the pnimi. And generally speaking, we call that a helem she'ena b'mitzias. It's a helem which is not in existence, which is helem ha'atzmi. It is the helem, essence helem, not helem. It's not b'mitzias. So when we say that when the skaf sitra achra, the yikor the kutchabrichu, that's the helem she'ena b'mitzias, the helem ha'atzmi, it's istalic, it's totally separated from the level of pnimius. So basically, through the birur of the nefesh habavis, through the yigia, through iskafia, you bring down the higher level of helem, the helem ha'atzmi. According to this, we understand the great advantage of bringing down what we draw down through iskaf sitrachra. Because when you work of subduing the other side, when it's in full force and its strength, especially when you subdue yourself in such matters, which come through great, a very powerful war. That is a more effort and more. That's even more effort than the work of just sorting things out when you have to wage a big war, because sorting out is also removing the ra from the toif, but sometimes you have to fight for it. That's a much greater. That's why we call it kadiskafia sitrach, not kadmevarer. It's iskafia davke. L'chein ha'elem shenimshach al-yidei zeh yistali kutchabrichu unai le'yeser gam me'ha'elem. That's why the helem, the makif that comes through that is istalik yikor de kutchabrichu. That's the real level of istalik that's totally removed from pnimius unai le'yeser gam me'ha'elem. That is even higher than the helem that comes through avodas haberurim. Iskafia shebemaimer now. In the maimer, when he talks about iskafia of avodas haberurim, but when it comes through milchama, it's even a higher level than that as well. Hine. This advantage in this work of iskafia, mekivon shahamshochi al yidei avodah v'yigia, since the hamshocha is through work and effort, and the avodah iskafia more than the birur, bedugma sheitzoyes ha'esh matzur al de'akoh, similar to taking out the fire from the flintstone through banging it. shal yidei hayigia the avodas habirurim. That's similar to what comes down to avodas habirurim. Elo shehi nailis yisr. It's even a higher level. The hamshochet askafia is more than the level of just avodas habirurim. No, iker hamayla, the skafia sidra achra. The main mile of iskafia sidra achra is avoida the iskafia sidra achra. That when you push the sitra achra, subdue it. When the sitra achra is in force and strength, is in a way of just you got to win, you got to overcome it. Shal Yideza, who is Galus, and then you revealed that treasure of above. The Gilu Zehu Milmailo, then you get the revelation that comes from above. The Ein Isarusa de Litato Magas Lashon. Over there, the Sarusa de Litato does not reach there when you do it in a way of Nitzachim. And another, so first of all, that when you push yourself avoda in a way of Nitzachim, you're going to stand strong against all of the obstacles. Then you get the oitzer of above, and it's in a way that it's not you reaching it. You can't reach the result. You get it from above. That comes down into an inner. And you still have the advantage, like is Rusul that comes through Rusul Tata, that it comes down to Pnimius. Here you have both because you're not reaching there, but it comes down to a Pnimius. So Kanal Sifyud, as you said earlier, Sifyud, she's Galus Lamshochas Oitzer, that this revelation, and we draw down the Oitzer who come be slapshus b'mitas hanetzach sheba Odom, is dresses up in the netzach of the Odom. However, right now we don't have yet that fully. That will be the level of coming down by the person. Now that the Nitzachon is not revealed, we're still in the middle of the war. So we're not yet accomplished the war, so we don't have the full revelations. So what does the person feel openly? He doesn't see the Oitzer himself, just the results. That he has the power to overcome the menagid. He hasn't overcome it yet, he doesn't have that, but he has the ability, he has the koyach to be. When the Nitzachon will be completed, when the Nitzachon will be open, then you will actually feel the Oitzer itself. Not that you can get the Oitzer, but you will feel the Oitzer. With the true and complete redemption to righteous Mashiach very soon. So therefore, then the Nitzachon will be Begilui. And through the level of Nitzachon, you'll have both. You'll get the Eir from the Makif, and the Eir HaMakif will come down in a Pnimius, so that the Oitzer HaElyon of above will come down. And now we have just the knowledge that we have the power to do it, and the actual revelation of the Oitzeres and the Bizbus Oitzeres will come with the coming of Mashiach. Okay, let's leave it over here.
Okay.
Mr. Hashem, we'll start tomorrow another Maimer based with Hashem.
Okay.
I'll see you tonight. Okay.
See you later. Come on.